I'm going to go do a teardown of this old karaoke machine. As you can see, this old karaoke machine has some really interesting components, such as a dual 7-segment display, a CRT TV, and a CD player. And also these large audio jacks, the 3mm ones, 5mm ones, and some potentiometers and other little components, and also some speakers. As you can see, it has a CD player that opens up, which can be very interesting and useful. It also has these big speakers on both sides, so that can also be useful. This CRT TV inside could be also very useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart and find what components I can use. There's also an infrared sensor that can also be very useful. And yeah, there could be some interesting components I could find in this. So now, let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So far, here's how it looks on the inside. And here's the actual CRT TV right there. So what I'm going to do now is carefully reach inside, unscrew this PCB that's right here, that's attached to this wire. Okay, so here's this ribbon cable. I see that I don't need this, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it. There we go. And doing that should allow me to separate this a lot better. There we go. There we go. I should be able to separate this a lot better. Alright, and there we go. Got this out. So now I can pull this out a little bit more. Let's see, where else? Okay, so here I found the power source. This cable here, which will connect to the power source. I want to remove that. Pretty much everything taken out exactly how I want to. This is perfect. Alright, so now the only thing attached to this housing is the speakers and the CD player, which I don't think I'm going to be able to use because I think I've possibly damaged it. But that's okay. CDs are outdated anyways. I can always just salvage it for parts, use the laser diode, DC motor for other stuff. Okay, so now what I'm going to do to make it a lot easier to maneuver, I'm going to remove these speakers so I can get rid of this. So I can get rid of this housing. Go ahead and unscrew these speakers like this, and remove them from this housing. Here, this part here, and the speaker. Oh, it's glued down. The speaker's glued in place. Oh wait, not really. Oh, good. There we go. Perfect. Alright, and remove the speakers just like that. Now repeat the same process with the speaker here. And there we go, got both speakers. Now I can go ahead and discard the shell, possibly. What I have right here is the CD player. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the CD player that's right here. And there we go. CD player removed. Not much use for a CD player other than to salvage for parts, like this little potentiometer. Laser diode. DC motors. This little DC motor that spins a CD. I've used that in a previous project before. Things like this can be useful. Also these vibration pads can also be very useful too. You can do stuff with that. And now this housing, I can go ahead and discard it. Okay, so now parts that are useless is this board right here. Since it doesn't connect to the video, it connects directly to the CD player. And I've already cut the ribbon cable that's attached to it already. And I saw the TV still worked. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some unnecessary wires. So I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to cut it here. I'm going to cut it. Oh, interesting. This connects to the flyback. Interesting. Alright, I'm going to cut it here. And I'm going to cut it here. Oh, I'm missing more connections. Let's see. And I'm going to cut it here. And I'm going to cut it here. There we go. This board here is now not needed. Looking at it, looks like it's an audio amplification board. Okay, so this board that I removed may have some potentially useful components. Capacitors, this MOSFET, these crystal oscillators can be very useful, and some wire. So I'm going to go ahead and just keep this and remove these components at another time. And also these surface mounts can be useful too. So discharge the flyback. Okay, so now what I want to do is organize this mess a little bit by removing things that are not necessary to keep. Like, I'm going to remove this and cut off this connection here. And I'm also going to remove this part here. And I can have wires. Wires are always useful. So I'm going to make a pile for wires. Put to the side wires. Pull these out. Just like this. Snip these wires. And wires are useful. Put that to the side. This part I can cut off and discard. Put this over here. More wires, very useful. I'm going to cut off this part. There we go. Wires. And the flyback transformer is safe, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off this wire here. And this wire. There we go. Back to the side to solder later. this little push button here and this wire. Go ahead and desolder that later. Keep the wire. I'm not a fan of this kind of wire, nor these wires, so I'm going to go ahead and discard all of it except for the potentiometers, which I'll desolder later. So snip these off, and snip these off. There we go, desolder that later. Now, these are the audio jacks. Actually, I don't think I'm going to discard these. I actually like how this is. So I'm probably going to maybe cut the board like that to shorten it if I need to, or whatever. I'm going to keep these as is because these are useful, and I could probably do something with them later. Plus, since they're already with the wire, it's going to make attaching to another circuit a lot easier. So put that to the side. Here's this connection bit here, the DC jack. I'm going to take this part here and keep it as is. Actually, yeah, keep it as is, because there's already wire here, which will be useful. Or I can always desolder it later for something else if it doesn't fit. So I'll put that to desolder later, likely. Actually. Alright, now here I'm going to remove these wires. I don't like these ones. I'm going to throw them away. Some more useful wires. Now I'll desolder these later. This wire is good to keep. This wire is not good. This one's not. Actually, yes, actually has colored wires. That could be useful. So what I'm going to do. Actually, no, it's shrink tubing. I'm not going to mess with that. Throw it away. The only thing useful about this is potentiometer and capacitor and slide switch. The rest of it useless except for this wire. There we go. Keep that. Desolder this later. But also, just to clean it up, I'm just going to cut these off anyways. Just so I don't have a mess. Desolder these later. Probably desolder these later. Just cut these off. There we go. And now a bunch of these wires are here useless. So I'll throw all these away. A bunch of screws into my magnet. Screws are always very useful. More stuff I don't need, so I'll clean that up. And so far, here are all the wires that I find useful. I'll keep these in a separate container, so if I need a wire, I have one. Okay, so now here are all the circuits that I'm going to go ahead and desolder. These buttons here, 7-segment display, these ICs, capacitors, flyback transformer, potentiometers, and a whole bunch of other little components in here that are going to be very useful for me to use. And even these heat sinks can also be very useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and desolder everything and identify each component that I've collected, and then store them and use them for future parts and future projects. So now I'm going to go ahead and desolder everything and have a pile of components. And here are all of the components that I have salvaged from this device. Now I'm going to go and organize it and describe each and every one of them. And here are all the components that I've collected from this device. And as you can see, I have these two speakers that are 4 ohms 5 watt speakers. I have this CRT TV, or cathode ray tube device. Now I could use this for a future project, since I tried to do that for this device here, but unfortunately I must have destroyed something. Not really sure, but I could try to make something out of this by attaching high voltage, by attaching this flyback transformer into it, or trying to do something else like that with higher voltage, but there's reasons why I don't want to mess with that. One, if I put too much power into it or do it incorrectly, this will emit X-rays, which, I don't want to get X-rays, it's radiation poisoning, so I don't want to mess with that. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is either use this as a prop, or maybe open it somehow and put an LED inside, or do something really interesting with this. I'll figure out something interesting to do with this device. It may not work as it was intended, but I might have to do some kind of modification to make it work in the way I want it to. Maybe some kind of a decorative piece of some sort. I'm not really sure yet, but I'll come up with something clever. And what I've also collected is some wire, these audio jacks, which are also very useful. These are the big ones, which I think are, and these are the big ones, which are the 5mm audio jacks, and I can attach a guitar audio jacks into, or maybe attach any kind of amplifiers or anything like that. These can be very useful. And of course, I have this miniature flyback transformer, which can also be useful for different or unique looking projects. Not sure what, but I'll come up with something interesting with this device. And then I have all of these little components. Now, this actually does not look like much, but to be honest, this is all what it took to make the device work. Also, there were a lot of surface mount components that I didn't bother taking off, so that also contributed to this device. But however, all of these salvageable components is what powered the device, and all of these salvageable components I found extremely useful. Now, let's go ahead and take a closer look at what I've collected here. Now, as you can see, I have collected a lot of different unique and useful components. I have this flyback transformer, which is very useful. I have a bunch of these screws, which I can definitely use for anything, really. I have a whole bunch of these screws, which are very useful. I can use them for pretty much anything. Probably 3D print some housings and use these screws to close them for battery ports or whatever. Anything can be useful for screws. Screws can be useful for anything. I have right here this multi-slide switch, which has a bunch of different functions where I can be able to power multiple different devices. This one the same thing, and this one same thing, except I might have more use with this one. Possibly, I'm not sure. And then of course I have right here a bunch of potentiometers, 50k ohms each, a bunch of push button switches, and I also have some more potentiometers right here. As you can see, a 152 ohm, 471 ohm, 472 ohms. And these are very useful little potentiometers. Then I have some resistors, I have a whole bunch of ceramic capacitors, some red LEDs, and one of my favorite things I've collected is a dual 7-segment display. This is very useful. You can do all kinds of interesting things with that. I have an inductor, I have a whole bunch of little transistors, some MOSFETs, and another high voltage transistor. All of these components are very useful. I can use them for many interesting projects. Not really sure what though. I have to look up the data sheet to see what they are and what they do, so that way I can use them for future projects. I have also a crystal oscillator, and I have this infrared LED receiver. This can be very useful to do some wireless transmission by using infrared light, or anything really. I can come up with some interesting ideas with that. And I have some microcontrollers here, which I find very unusual, like this one here that has a heatsink built onto it, which I find very interesting. But I have to look at the data sheet to see what these do, to see if I have any use for them. And then, of course, capacitors. Who doesn't love capacitors? These can be useful for all kinds of whatever you want to do with. These all are ranging between 1 microfarad to 4,700 microfarads. So many different ranges I can use. And some ceramic capacitors, and I have a whole bunch of diodes. Diodes are also very useful to have as well. So yeah, this is what I've collected. And there you have it. Now you know what's inside of an old karaoke device, and now you know what kind of components can be salvaged inside of an old karaoke device. And there you have it. Thank you for watching CRT Tech. I hope you learned something new, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course click on the bell icon to be notified for future CRT Tech videos. Till the next tech, goodbye.